Tudor may never shrink the size of their GMT, and I'll explain exactly why I think that. The Tudor Black Bay GMT and the Tudor Black Bay Pro have both gotten a lot of flack for being thick watches. And the reasoning has always been, well, they have a GMT movement in there, it makes it thick. And that's not true. That's bogus. That's not exactly how that stuff works. So a GMT complication is a build on to an existing basically train of wheels and basic movement. So to go over it generally, a movement itself is a main plate. It's a big plate that has gears thrown in it with the mainspring barrel, and then it has a crown that uses keyless works to interact with the motion works that are interpreting their movement from the gear train up to the actual dial. And the keyless works obviously interacts with the motion works, then interacts with what you can see on the dial. So what I mean to say is every watch has that component. Every single one of them all have the exact same components. If it's a chronograph is built into the actual gear train of the watch. A module is a stack on of the gear train of the watch. So that's the difference between a chronograph that's built in and a modular one. The same thing with a GMT. A GMT movement has a GMT complication built into that movement. You're basically reconfiguring an existing movement to add a GMT complication with the jumping hour hand. So why is this going to mean that Tudor will not come out with a thinner GMT? At least not anytime soon, I think. And the reason why is because they have to recoup their original investment. When they came out with the original Black Bay line, how thick was that? It was a thick line. It was a big movement and it was a thick movement. And then when they came out with the Black Bay 58, what happened? They had a thinner movement and everyone bought that. I mean, these days, I don't know very many people that go out and buy the original Black Bay. I know some people do, but it's not nearly as popular as the 58. Now, when that happened and no one was buying the bigger movement, they had to do something with it. They had just made all this tooling and all this production and maybe even inventory of that movement, so they had to do something, and so they repurposed it. They made that movement into a GMT movement. So now it had a purpose. It could actually fulfill what it was supposed to. It could recoup the original investment, and it could even make them a lot of money. And so that is my theory. They basically took the original Black Bay movement, reconfigured it to be a GMT, put it into the new watches, and then they had a new popular selling watch with a slightly different version of the original movement. So if they ever change it to a thinner GMT, obviously the thicker GMTs are going to die. They need to phase them out completely in order to move on to the thinner ones, because at least maybe there are some people out there, but I doubt that if you had the exact same watch in the exact same style, 2 millimeters thinner versus the other one, you're probably going to pick the thinner watch. There are some examples of people liking a chunky watch, but most people are going to pick the thinner one. And so I think that that's what's going on. They're trying to not come out with a thinner watch and destroy the actual profitability of the movement they created and the model they created in the original GMT model, which was obviously a repurposed version of the original Black Bay model. Now, this is not fact. I don't know that for certain, but their gear train, the bridges themselves, and some of the specs I've seen of the original movement versus the GMT movement look pretty similar. The general layout is a borrowed version of a lot of the ETA layouts, which is what a lot of the companies do, that then they kind of incorporate into their own way and change a few things and obviously make it their own. So that's my theory. I don't think it's going to happen. I think we're going to be waiting for, if people want that GMT that's still thin, especially like now I hear people talking about the Pelagos 39 into a GMT. I think you're going to be waiting a while to get to it. I hope I'm wrong, but I think you're going to wait a while, at least until they make a lot of the money back on their original investment, or they may decide that at least they have a profitable line, just leave it there and just focus on other things. Who knows? But that's my theory, and I just figured I'd share it. I like to kind of speculate different things. It's fun, and get your guys' ideas. So let me know in the comments below, what do you guys think? Do you think I'm right? What do you think's going on behind the scenes? Do me a favor and subscribe. It's incredibly helpful. They're obviously up to something, and I think it's curious as to what's going on. Until the next one, take care.